and I'll start with the introduction and the welcome.
Hey guys.
Hi, Jeff.
How you doing?
Great. How are you?
Doing all right. They've already announced a reopening here. They've already announced a reopening plan here in Massachusetts. So
that's good. Hi, Bobby.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Bobby.
Hi, Francie. Hi, Glenn.
Hi,
Bobby.
Hi, Karen. Hi, Victoria. I know you're an intern from Texas. Nice to see you.
Yes.
Hi, Alex.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to see you.
Lisa, you're glowing.
Hi.
Yes,
Hey,
I know.
Karen.
28 weeks
You look great.
to the end. Thank you. Hi, Karen.
Hi, Karen.
We're going to go ahead and get started so we can stay on time. We have people will add into the waiting room as they're coming in. But thank you all for joining us today. I'm just going to give a quick welcome and go over the Zoom rules. So I'm sure many of you have been doing Zooms all day, every day now for the last 70 plus days. But please mute yourself when you're not speaking. We recommend speaker view for presentation. Sharing your video is optional, although we really love to see your beautiful faces. So please do if you can. And please put all questions and comments into the chat. Before we bring on our special guest today, and I pass it over to Dana, I wanted to just give a couple of highlights as to what we've been doing at Autism Tree since shelter in place went into effect back in March. So if you're not aware, we just had a Giving Tuesday campaign. Giving Tuesday did a special day called Giving Tuesday Now. And as of today, we actually just got another donation this morning. We have now raised $16,825 since that Giving Tuesday.
Wow.
Many of you here on the call donated. Thank you very much on Giving Tuesday. We couldn't have done it without you. If you still want to make a donation of any amount and haven't done so yet, we'll put the link in the follow-up email to today's workshop with Marilee. I want to say that what's incredible about that is that it really blew us out of the water. We thought we might raise a few $1,000s on Giving Tuesday. It's a tough climate right now, and it was amazing to see how generous people were. We had 15 $500 donors step up, which we were not prepared for. So thank you to every single one of you, all 90 donors who donated. I also want to say that since we shelter in place went into effect, over the past 70 days, we have now impacted and reached more than 213,000 people through our social media, which is really incredible. We've always had a really good online presence and a really good social media presence, but with everything now being all virtual, it's taken it to a whole other level for Autism Tree. So thank you to all of you that are watching our videos, our volunteers who have made videos for our kids and families at home. If you haven't made a video yet and you want to make one, I'm looking at Francie might want to make one for us, for our kids, because she's an SLP, and that could be really fun to hear from her. Yeah. If you want to make one and haven't made one yet, then just reach out to me and Rebecca and we'll hook you up. But it's been incredible. Yeah, we now have over 118 videos on our YouTube channel. So if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do. I'll put the link in the chat. We also launched a Reading with ATPF video series that many of our volunteers and interns have been partaking in. We've done 20 videos so far, started in April, and that's reached over 22,000 people. So if you want to read a children's book for our kids, you can film yourself reading a children's book, and we would love that as well. Since March 28th, we quickly adapted 17 of our 20 programs to be virtual during this time. They're a little bit different. They're not the same as what we usually do, but it's incredible. We've already offered 38 virtual programs since then, and we have 11 coming up on the calendar between now and June 20th. So all that being said, we're very, very excited about our special guest today, Marilee Burgeson. I'm going to pass it over to Dana Hoff, our volunteer executive director and founder, and she is going to introduce Marilee.
Hi, ATPF family. I just kind of wanted to share what a blessing it's been to do these lunch and learns. Todd actually came up with it, and I think it's been better than we even imagined during this time. And one of the things that I feel like we're doing is we're building on something together. We're learning together in new ways, and I wanted to share with you that our team, in my opinion, our ATPF team, which we are, you know, in constant communication, is Lisa, Rebecca, our CFO, Caitlin, and we've never ever sort of been this connected where we are focused on counting our blessings, I feel, as a team. So any donation that comes in, any video that someone makes, like Lisa was talking about earlier, all the things that are happening, the ideas that are coming through with activities, every video that's been made, we will have a moment of counting that as a blessing. And every time I come on Lunch and Learn and then I see who's with us right now, I'm counting you as a blessing. I'm counting this Lunch and Learn as a blessing. And I think it's really more important than it's ever been. On our last Lunch and Learn, someone brought up about earthing, and the earthing that I had experienced with some of you is with earthscape artist Andreas Amador, which is where you are like purposely taking off your shoes and walking in the sand and connecting, and that was a blessing because that conversation led me to go do that with Garrett. And I think that that's, you know, we can keep learning from each other. Earthing to me, it got me back to wanting to do more of that. And the more we can share on these weekly Zoom calls after our speaker together of like things that we're doing that are keeping us strong. We've also talked about how important the use of our words is. And that's something that we've been doing for a really long time. We started after our tenure looking at negentropy versus entropy. And what that is really not complicated in that if there's negentropy going on, things are growing. It's like we're showing up and we each have a flower. And when we leave, we feel like we kind of have a little bit more of a bouquet at home where we're like, wow, you know what? I can do this. I can do something that's more colorful for my home, for my child, you're adding to your life. I mean, we're either adding or subtracting, and that's what entropy is. It's like when you're subtracting. You could be planting flowers, but what's happening is weeds. And I just feel like that I don't have the words to say how during this most difficult, challenging time, this global pandemic, I see everyone that comes to Lunch and Learn and our team that I already mentioned, I see us showing up with more heart, more gratitude, more presence. And we start our call a little bit early with the speaker, and Marilee just really honed in on being present and connected, and how important we're wanting to see each other's faces. And we're wanting to connect on a deeper level. And every person that did the last 5 Lunch and Learns, I'm so grateful because I feel that they completely brought their own authentic self and their talent and their ideas and wisdom so we can keep enduring during shelter in place. And today, I just felt like every time we do a Lunch and Learn, I wanted to add something to the conversation and hope that it helps even one of you in some way. Right now, I feel like I'm really fighting to be mentally strong, and that's just so important. It's important for all of us. I know we're all running homes and having, we have kids in our life or relationships. We're all trying to do so much. Every person on this call I know for sure is a builder. They're trying to do something to make a difference. I know that. And so I was drawn to sharing these 6 what 6 things do people do that are mentally strong? They move on. I know I sometimes struggle with that personally. I'm a person that holds on. They don't waste time feeling sorry for themselves. They embrace change. They welcome challenges. They stay happy. They don't waste energy on things they can't control. They're kind, fair, unafraid to speak up. They're willing to take calculated risks. they celebrate other people's success and they don't resent that success. And I felt drawn to sharing this today, and I think it's a great entry point for introducing Marilee, because while I feel very emotional about Marilee, I could talk about her for probably a day straight on how I feel about her, but she is mentally strong. And when I met Marilee, I had her husband as a teacher when I was getting my MBA. And he was the hardest teacher in my MBA program by far. And he brought in Todd Huff as his colleague who he had gotten his MBA with, and he introduced Todd Huff as the best marketeer he knew in San Diego. So here's Todd Huff, a speaker that Marilee's husband, Howard Burgeson, brought in, and I'm in the class, and I just, had so many questions for him because he was such an expert on healthcare, and I was working for Johnson & Johnson then. So Todd and I meet because of Marilee's husband, Howard, and we have this whole great, experiential things with Howard when we got engaged and we got married, but we never met his beautiful wife, Marilee. We stopped believing Howard had a wife until Garrett got diagnosed, with autism, and then we got like this 911 call from Howard saying his wife wanted to have us over for dinner. We were starting Autism Tree with Monday Night Football with Doug Flutie, and I just don't think Marilee would ever know that when I think about her, I could easily remember every detail and cry that she had us over when we were just reeling from trying to understand what was going on with our toddler and what autism really meant. And she made a homemade dinner and blueberry pie, and we go to her house, and it's everything that Marilee is, that you'll experience if you really listen to her and get to know her. She uses all of her senses, I feel like. She is present. She was talking about that on the call when we started, and she was so present with knowing what we would be like as a young family, having our toddler just get diagnosed with autism. She used everything she had to wrap us up in everything that was her house, was, smelled like this fresh home cooked meal. She had all these special activities for Garrett. And I think Todd and I were just, I don't know, I think we just felt like we were in heaven for a little bit, watching Marilee play with Garrett, eating her food, and just being so grateful, but also just so blown away. And I feel like that's what Marilee, what you get when you get to know her, is that she is present. She really does connect to what's going on, and she's done that not just for our Hoff family, but she's done that for so many of our team members, our families. There's no way I could sit here and tell you all she's done, but what she personally did in opening up her home and her heart and using all her skills she had to play with Garrett at that point was something that I will carry in my soul forever. And I really want you to know that, Marilee. And what I want to say to everybody on this call is just that I always kind of waver if I'm going to be so personal about introducing people at the foundation, but I hope everyone will forgive me because I just have so much love for everybody that makes the foundation happen, and I don't want to not take the chance to say how awesome you are, and how much I appreciate you personally and for the entire foundation. So I hope we could all just feel inspired to the time that we have to thank somebody or really go, wow, you know what, I don't know if you know, but I remember what you've done for me, or this, what you're doing for me right now means so much. Because, being present is really the gift that we all have. And with that, I just want to say thank you for making time to be on this call. And thank you, Marilee, for everything that you do. Starting with right here, right now, doing this Lunch and Learn. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. And I just have so much love for you and your family. It goes back a long time right before Garrett turned 3. And it's just been such an honor to be a part of this whole process, and for Dana and I to share our ups and downs too in this life and with health issues, and support one another when we're not feeling strong. And it just reminds me of how important connections are. And it's so interesting too, I think, how God puts us in different places and different people in your life to hold you up, because he so knows what you need. And that you have been, that's such a blessing in my life so many times, Dana. And I so appreciate it. And I'm so uplifted by so many things at Autism Tree that enrich my life and just increase that soul connection and that desire just to be with people. And I think that's the fabric of what you've created through your own presence in Autism Tree, that people feel they are the only person in the world right there when you're with them. You have that gift. And to me, that's the foundation and why Autism Tree is what it is, because of that sincere presence that comes from your heart and soul, and your interest and your gift of connecting people. And I just so appreciate that and being a part of that. And that's something that I will hold near and dear to my heart. I have many wonderful snapshots of such beautiful moments in knowing you and Autism Tree, and all of you here as well. So today, what was really on my mind, and I have a delay, I guess, if you haven't figured that out. We have terrible Wi-Fi where I am, so just bear with me. But what came to mind for me is the idea of presence, just that idea of presence. And how do we stay calm in the midst of the unknown that we're now in? How do we stay in a place that helps us to see everything, to step back and see everything, to be in the midst of everything? And how do we hold ourselves present so that we can get a different perspective? And that's what I really want us to think about today. So one of the things I'm thinking about is this big question to just think of right now: how am I? So often in our busy world, we don't ever think about this. But in our COVID isolated world, we can be more aware of how I am, and what does that mean? It's how am I emotionally? What am I feeling? What am I experiencing? What are my emotions? Fear, anxiety, sadness, at loss of things, worry for the future, contentment in having a slower life, moments of happiness and joy in this difference that we're experiencing. But I think that question of how am I, for me, that's something I learned to ask at a very young age in my profession, because in working with children on the autism spectrum, often you have to have yourself in a space where you are regulated and calm so that you can help the parent to remain calm so that they can help support their child in becoming calm. That is the parallel process. And so knowing that, we have to always be mindful, I do, of where am I? How am I doing today? And to prepare myself, because I know that my energy has an impact on someone else. And so I have to consciously work at monitoring and knowing where I am so that I can help and support others, because they will feel me. And so I want to think about what kind of energy do I want to project just in the world, and certainly in working with children who have a lot of challenges in maintaining that calm state. So how am I is something for you to think about. And I think the other thing is to think about, in this present situation that we're in right now, that everybody says, oh, we're all in this together. And yes, that is true. We are in this same storm, but we're all in different boats. Our experience of it is very different. And many of us are very fortunate. As much as this affects us, it certainly is less so than for many families who are experiencing very basic needs, like needing food, like needing shelter, needing testing, needing access to medical care. I mean, just really terrifying kinds of things in life. So there are many people in that boat. And so I think that's something to look around you when you are seeing other people and talking to other people, is to really look at a deeper level and to see what is their experience of this like. We can't assume it's the same just because we're all staying at home. That part is, similar, but it's actually so different for every single person, depending on what that means to them. So I think that just helps us think about this picture that we're in, and sometimes having understanding or have that visual picture of this wave that is going to be going up and down for some time now, and quite in unexpected ways, that we have to figure out some strategies to help ourselves maintain. How do you maintain a calm state in the midst of all of this turmoil? So what the big question becomes, how do we stay calm enough to take the world in? How can we do that? How is it that given what we're experiencing, we have what's happening in our body, we have what's happening in our family, our immediate surroundings, our home, we have what's happening in our community and in our country and in the world. And there's so many different aspects of impacts of each of those things. So trying to maintain that calm state given these circumstances, I think presents challenges, and yet it also presents an opportunity for learning and growth, and for us to really gives us something else to focus on, that we do and we can have some power over this, and we can manage that. So what we're going to do now is to just take a moment here to do a little bit of breathing. And the reason why that is so important, and I think it's just kind of ironic too, given that the coronavirus is certainly a respiratory illness, and people have so much difficulty breathing, that's certainly one of the things I am grateful for is breathing and being able to breathe, and we often take that for granted. But what breathing does for us is it actually has a very natural calming and slowing the body down, so it really helps our physiological system reach this calm state. And so this is an exercise that is actually for kids, that was developed by Christopher Willard, who's a psychologist, that has done a whole alphabet book called Alpha Breaths on mindfulness and breathing activities for children. So this one I'm going to take you through. So I just want you to just take a minute, and we're going to breathe in, and I want you to think of something that you're concerned about. Just think of one concern you have, and I want you to breathe that in as you take a breath in. So just think of that concern and breathe in. And then as you blow it out, visualize those bubbles and visualize that concern just popping the bubble as you let it go. Just popping the bubble as you let it go. And take another deep breath in. The concern goes in and then out again. And let go of it as it pops like a bubble. And breathe in that concern. And let go of it as you visualize the popping bubble. And now we're just going to breathe in and breathe out. And breathe in and breathe out. And just notice your body. Feel the calmness in your body. Feel the stillness. Breathing can slow your heart rate. It relaxes you. It charges your brain in a different way. And that's always a go-to place you can go, because you cannot hold anxiety and breathing in the same space. So even if you don't do a special exercise, you can always just take deep breaths, and that will automatically help you center and helps you recalibrate yourself, your brain, and allows you to just calm down. And even when you notice your breathing, just noticing just that sheer act will help you start to get into the rhythm of it and slow it down and help you tune in to your body, which is so important. And so that leads us to the next idea, which is regulation, which is really our body's, how does it manage energy? And so that's a constant challenge for a lot of the children and families that I work with, but it's a big challenge for me too. It's a very big challenge for my granddaughter. But that idea of regulation is this is what supports you in a calm and alert state where your body feels balanced and you're able to take in the world. And interesting things about regulation to know is that what we just did was something that was self-regulation. We used breathing as a way to help us get to a regulated state. And that's very important. You developmentally, when babies are born, they start to develop this regulation through co-regulation with their moms. And they get into this back and forth rhythm that is regulating for both of them. And over time, you like kids to have some ability to self-regulate and be able to show you that they need a break or something is too much for them, and they can develop some of their own strategies. But the co-regulation is really something that's very important right now because we all need it. We all need each other because that's what's helping us co-regulate. Dana and I were just co-regulating with each other over just the emotion that comes up through our love for each other and our relationship, and that is regulating. Even though we're sharing powerful emotions, we are doing it together and it helps us regulate. And it feels good to do that. It feels solid, like there's something that settles deep into your soul when you do that. And so at this time, that thinking about that co-regulation and who is someone that you co-regulate with, whether it's a spouse or a friend or anybody, even in these Zoom meetings where there is an aspect of co-regulation because we are right now in community, we're in fellowship, and we are now coming together, and that's so important for all of us. That has a regulating effect because we don't feel so alone in a time when we're isolated. And so that co-regulation is just a very important part because it's changing our brain, it's changing our body, and it's helping support this idea of being in a regulated state so we can truly take in the world around us. So now we are going to watch a little video which is about being present, and it's for kids, but I think it makes the points in a fun way. But I think something we have to think about is we are human beings. So just being versus doing is something to think about. This coronavirus has taken us doing Americans who want to be busy and doing things all the time and put us in a place where we're in a quieter and paused place. And we have an opportunity to just be and be okay with just being, whatever that might be. And so this will give you some things to think about in terms of being present.
Abel and Phi. Mindfulness is being present in the present moment. What does being present really mean? Being present means listening to the sound of the ocean waves. Being present, wind through the air. Feeling the soft touch. Being present is being nice to your friends. Being present is patiently waiting for your turn in the line. Being present is listening carefully to what others are saying. Being present means helping others when you notice they need help. Being present is focusing on your classwork and not on when your recess break will be. Being present is enjoying every experience as an opportunity to learn. Being present means realizing that it's okay to make mistakes. Being present is being thankful for your family and friends. Being present is allowing yourself to feel your breath. Being present is being still and letting yourself feel silence.
So I love this visual. If you can go back to that for a minute, Rebecca, of the hands and the feelings. Because I love how tenderly held feelings are in the hands. And I think it's just something to think about, because right now we're feeling a lot. And I think, to me, this symbolizes the grace we need to give ourselves for feelings and also for others. And I think the other thing to think about when you have feelings is to think about, how do I feel and what do I need? I feel tired. I need to rest. I feel sad. I need to cry. I feel happy. I need to celebrate. But it helps me process feelings when I think about, what do I need? And it goes back to that, how am I? And having some agency over our feelings. Okay, go to the next slide. So when we think a little bit more about feelings, of course, that there are sensations and emotions that really go together, and we experience that. So when we experience an emotion, we have a sensation in our body. And for a lot of kids that I work with, it can be very overwhelming because there isn't a lot of grading of emotion, but we all experience this too. Our body temperature can raise, our heart rate can rise, and different things can happen when we're experiencing emotions. If we're feeling extreme anxiety, our brain and body can really shut down. And so that play between what we're feeling and what we're experiencing in our body are something that in this time we can really start to pay attention to, because that line in the middle is the zone of optimal arousal, or where we are in. How do you get to that calm, alert state? Because throughout the day, these kinds of things, especially now, are going to be giving you a zigzag optimal arousal zone, because you're experiencing unexpected emotions and also sensations. And also because we're home, we're more aware of some of these things than we might be when we were so busy. So I think it's important to tie those two things together, is our body and our sensory system, as well as the emotional system. So what I want you to think about a little bit now is, what unravels you? What unravels you? Just like this little string that we're pulling. And also, though, not only what is unraveling you right now, maybe it's the unknown, fear of the future, but what brings you back? And that's when we get to resilience. And as humans, that's certainly one of the things that we are made to be, is very resilient. So there is this hard part, but there's also this inherent ability to bounce back. So thinking about our body, our physiological state is the building block of resilience. So paying attention to how am I is very important in terms of building a foundation for whatever our day is going to bring us. And we can change the brain. We do have agency over ourselves. And there are things that we can do that can change where we are in the day and how far or how into that calm state we are by trying to cultivate presence and trying to be mindful of how you are and where you are in all of that, and how easily you can start to bring yourself into that central organizing place just through breathing. And that changing our mindset by being grateful, even if it's the smallest thing. It's spring outside. Does anyone notice that? There's flowers, it's warm, the beaches are beginning to open. Grateful for gathering together today, that we can, grateful for Zoom that can pull us together. But any little thing to be grateful for shifts to positive energy and has a soothing effect on your body. And the same with joy, like thinking, and not to forget about that, what's bringing you joy, because it's easy to get down in this time of isolation. And what are you doing to cultivate joy? And I just thought, I think of Dana, your posting of the family coloring on Facebook and how fun that is. And I thought, you know, those are things that bring great joy. It brought me joy just to see that, and how that those moments of joy are so important. And I think along with all of these things, of course, for me, I have a very strong faith. And so for me, a lot of that is, for me, changing the brain is having great faith and leaning on that. And finally, the most important thing is connection. It is the foundation of Autism Tree Project Foundation. It is why we are here. It is what we have to do in this world. We are making connections with families and children who have a very difficult time doing that. And it's so important, but it also brings us so much richness as well, that these relationships, you know, starting with a family with a child of autism that has grown into this huge network of parents and professionals and children and mentors, and that's very powerful. It's just a very powerful demonstration on how having a foundation of relationships can create so much in our lives. And we are wired to be in relationship. And this is, Autism Tree is a great example of that, that we seek this out. We are seeking each other out. And I think it's very important now for us, for each other, that we're always thinking about how can we connect? How can we continue to make meaningful connections, and staying on the pulse of what people need right now and in the future, because I think it will grow and change, and we'll have to be flexible around that. But we always know that we have this precious foundation of our relationships. So I just want to thank you so much for the honor of sharing this time with you in such a unique time in our lives. And now we have some time to chat.
Thank you, Marilee. I can't speak for everyone, but that was the first time I've done breathing probably since shelter in place went into effect. I hate to admit it, but really taking a moment out of my day and focused on my breathing that way. And I'm very grateful for that today. And I think all of us can take that with us. If we take away one thing from today, there's so much we can take away from what you talked about. I want to open this up for Q&A. We have about 6 minutes left. So Otto and Shelley are with us, and Otto wanted to comment, Marilee, maybe you can add to this, on how difficult it is to coordinate breathing when you have apraxia, and how individuals with motor differences are seen as not being mindful and present. And I know, Marilee, that you work with a lot of kiddos that are dealing with that. Yeah. Do you have any comments on that?
I certainly agree and think that can be very challenging. I think when I have children that have that kind of difficulty in motor planning, especially related to speech, is that for me, it's even more important to know how I am, to be fully present, because I don't want to create any anxiety in a child. I would not ask them to be breathing or anything, because I would not want to create anxiety, because any kind of command is very difficult and puts pressure, and it would change their brain to the reptilian brain of fight, flight, freeze. And I don't want to do that. So I'm very mindful of my energy level. I don't move quickly. I still have my affect, but it's slower, and I hold it for longer periods of time, and I wait till the children come to me. And it would be true with adults, anybody. I would be waiting for them. I'm reading them, following their lead, and waiting for them to come. I'm absolutely not going to be putting pressure on. It is a longer process, but the trust that I build is really what is the key, is that I have to create a safe space.
Yeah. I wanted to add another comment from Jeff Snyder, who's joining us from Massachusetts. Jeff says, I'm going to be honest, I am one of these people who forgets about being in the present. I have a horrible habit of putting myself in the future. Jeff, I think so many of us can relate to that. Marilee, do you have any comments on that? And I love the video about being present, and I think that's something we can all strive for, but it is definitely challenging, especially during this time when we might have a lot of anxiety or stress.
Well, I think that's true, and we have to recognize that. And it is our body's way of protecting us because we don't feel safe. So that is all working too. But I think the other thing is to think about is that we can train ourselves. The more you practice this, the better you become, the more aware of, you can calm your thinking down, you can calm your body down, and you start to attune to that. So I think over time it gets a little bit easier, but you have to work at it. You have to cultivate. These are practices. So it's a practice of being present. It's a practice of breathing or meditation or any of those things. And I find the more I do it, I can start to see my brain is just going crazy. And the more I do it, I can start to bring it to a center point, and that helps relieve me. It doesn't take away those moments I'm freaked out by what I hear and the future that I don't know about, because I'm worried about all those things just like everybody. But I think we have a choice in terms of how much we want to spend on that. So I try to put some boundaries on those things. Because it's, again, I want to acknowledge my feelings, the feelings in my hands. I want to acknowledge I feel worried. And is there anything that I could do to, what do I need? I feel really worried. What do I need? Maybe I need to turn the TV off, or I need to go read to take my mind off of it. But those are conscious decisions. So I think it takes practice. I think it's something I always have to work on. So I think it's very easy to get caught up in all of this stuff going on. And so we're trying to be the antithesis. So in isolation, we have an opportunity to maybe cultivate this so it will carry us through whatever is in the future for us.
Absolutely. And thank you, Alexandra. She's on the call today, one of our board members. She says she wants to recommend the book Resilient by Rick Hansen, PhD, teaching calm and compassion. And maybe we can, oh, she's holding it up right there. That's awesome, Alexandra. If we can put that in the follow-up email, Rebecca, that would be great.
Yeah, it's a great book, and it basically touches on that, getting a practice going, maybe in the morning when you're up, some people use prayer, some people use meditation, calm. It's just give an intention to your day. What would you like to accomplish? And having compassion for yourself when you don't get to those goals, when you don't get to, just be. It's a really good book. I highly recommend it. So, and thank you so much. What a beautiful message today. Thank you, Marilee.
Sure. I have another book too that you can add to your list. This is called The Power of Showing Up. It's for parents, written by Dan Siegel, but it applies a lot of the ideas that I talked about today only to parenting, and also being very understanding and compassionate to yourself as a parent. So that's just another resource.
Well, thank you, everyone. We are exactly at 1:45, so we're going to wrap it up. We're going to send a follow-up email to everybody on the call today. If you have a question for Marilee that you did not get to ask, we will put Marilee's email in the follow-up, and you can reach out.
I want to give Cindy a shout. Thank you for coming on from Pennsylvania, Cindy, and I love your hat. California, baby.
Thank you to everyone that joined us today. We love seeing your faces on our weekly Lunch and Learns. Hi, Ruben, and Cindy, and Karen, and Otto, and Shelly. and Bobby and Jeff, everyone, Francie. Thank you guys so much.
And
Thank you, guys.
Otto's doing next week, right?
Otto and Shelly are doing next week.
Really
We're
excited about that, you guys.
So you guys got to RSVP for that also. We'll send the link in the follow-up email. Everyone have a beautiful day. Thank you, Marilee, so much.
Thank you, Lisa. Lisa, I'd love to do a read aloud.
Yay, Alexander! I can't wait.
Okay. Bye, love.
Bye, guys.
Everyone.
Yeah, guys.
Bye.